Learning Pirkei Avos Perek Aleph, Shiur number 3. V'habir, and the reason, Madua lekosva ha'Torah beferish, shum tzivu el inyane midas, af shehin gufei Torah. Why didn't the Torah talk about midas? Why didn't it command us, be nice? All these things that are in Pirkei Avos, he's going to explain why is, even though it's gufei Torah, it's the gufa, it's real Torah. It's not like you have to do Torah mitzvahs and then be Mr. Nice Guy. No, it's like we learned before. It's the fundamental of Torah. It's the Av. It's the Avos, and the Tolda is all is Torah mitzvahs. Comes before Torah mitzvahs. Rambam, like the Rambam says in Hilchos Shuva, fascinating Rambam. Al toimer she'ein shuva ela ma'averish yesh behamayis kegoin znus gezel ugneva. Don't say that there's only tshuva. The only time I have to do tshuva comes Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, or every day. Don't think that I only have to do tshuva on a ma'isa avera. When I do averas, I steal, whatever it is. Torah says don't do it, and I did it, and on that I have to do tshuva. No, ela kashem shetzarech adam lashuv me'elu. Just like a person has to do tshuva from averas that he does bepoyel. Kain hu tzarech lechapes b'deus ra'os. So too he has to think inside of his mind of his corrupt thinking that he has. V'lashuv minakas, and to do tshuva on anger. Anger that's shown, but even internal anger that he's thinking inside. I'm angry. Uminakina, and from being jealous. Jealousy that's shown, that comes out of you, but even if it doesn't go above, bubble out of you, it's internally inside of you, and that's corruption. It's against Torah thinking to be jealous. So even if I'm thinking a little bit of jealousy, I have to do tshuva on that. Umeredifes hamamoin, and from running after money, v'hakavod, and honor, umeredifes hamacholos, and to run after foods that are mutter to eat. A person can say, it's mutter, I'm supposed to eat it, I'm allowed to eat it. But running after food, to be a foodie, and to be into it, the more that we're into this world, we're out of that world. This is a fact, it's a seesaw. Some people say, what's so wrong, what's so bad about being into Gashmias? Fact, we only live once. We're meant to be into Ruchnias. When you're into Gashmias, the more you're into Gashmias, the less you're into Ruchnias. It's a seesaw. You can't have both. And sometimes that's, the people say, what's so bad? That's the worst. Because you're lowering your connection to Ruchnias. You're lowering your connection to thinking like Hashem, like all the tzaddikim thought. Why did Rav Steinman have to live in that apartment and eat one cucumber and a quarter of a tomato for every day? Because you can't have both. And we see the ones that have tremendous ruchnias, they're not into the gashmias. You can't have both. And it's all about focus. Nesivas Shalom says, a person can only have one focus. It says in Chelik Aleph. And there are things that we don't even realize that we're giving up in ruchnias because we're not focused. So we're doing the Torah and the mitzvahs, halavai, and that's wonderful, right? But there are opportunities that we wouldn't even realize that we missed because it's not our focus. And really, let's be real. If you want to be the best lawyer in the world, you got to be all in. So why aren't you going on the vacation? Because I'm studying law. But you're already a lawyer. I'm reviewing old. But what do you need to review old? Because if you want to be the best lawyer in the world, you got to be all in. You want to be into real estate, you got to be all in. Anything you want to do, that has to be your primary focus. If you want to be a Jew, and you want to be connected to Hashem, and you want to live a life that has meaning that's above this meal and this money and this year, but meaning forever, for eternity, you want to be connected to Hashem on a higher level, that has to be your focus. And Olam Hazeh distracts and takes you away from Olam Haba. And you can't point your finger at it. No, there's no Avera. And it could be it even looks like a mitzvah. What do you mean? We're celebrating. We have the highest, most, like Sudas Achashverosh. But it's for a mitzvah. It's for a parlor meeting. Yeah, but you're redifis hamamoin, redifis macholos. It's just not the way. Doesn't mean that it's bad, because maybe it's good, and it could be for you on your level that that's a good thing, because you wouldn't be. But it's removal of focus. Somebody's very into designer clothing. What's wrong? Where does it say in the Torah? Where does it say in halacha asur to get designer clothing? The answer is right here. The answer is not asur, it's mutar. And if that's the level of life that you want to live, Baruch Hashem, there's a lot worse than you, believe me. And you'll go to Gan Eden, and you'll do mitzvahs and Torah Masim Tovim. But floating up to being a yid in Toichias, you're not going to have, because it blocks you. And we're all guilty of that, because we can't. We're all megushim to some degree. And everybody likes to knock the one who's more megushim. We're all megushim, and we're all into Gashmias. It's hard, it's difficult. It's hard. People get dressed a certain way. There's competition. They want to dress other. They get into it. They get into fashion. But the part is that we're trying to think now. If you're into fashion, you're less into God. No, I say my Tehillim, I daven, and I learn. Yes, in the exterior, you could do both. Internal, think deep. Listen what the Rambam's saying. He's talking about depth. He's saying something that you never thought of. We always thought to do tshuva for averis that you did b'payil. Did you ever think about doing tshuva for non-averis, but just thinking internally that is not in line with the sweetness and the proper thinking of Torah? So sometimes people get offended and they're like, listen, there's so many averis that we have to deal with and that I'm not doing, and there's so many mitzvahs that I'm doing. Well, why do you have to talk about this? This is not for you. If you're not up to this, it's not for you. You're right, this is a higher level. But this is what we're talking about now. That midas is a higher level. To be a yid is to have certain types of thought process on how you look at the world, on what's important, on how you care about other people. And this is before Torah. And the more that we are in line with this, the more then the learning of Torah has a deeper effect. As we learned before, it can give you Ruach HaKodesh on the highest levels, but it can give you a whole different life. And a lot of times we're doing the good, but it's not internalized into our essence and our being, because we're not doing this part. Says the Rambam, don't think you can only do tshuva and you must only do tshuva for averis that you do when there's a maisa avera. No. The same way that you have to do averis from those things, so too you have to do averis for machshava things, for not feeling things. Ve'elu ha'avonos, and these sins in the sense that, first of all, kina taiva ha'kavod moitzinas ha'adam ha'olam, and those are averis, but even the other things that are not technically averis, you should know, these things are even harder than those with a maisa. Shebizman she'adam nishka ba'elu kashuhu lifroish mehem. When a person does an avera b'payil, he does a maisa, he feels guilty. He feels tzibrachin. He knows he's wrong. He knows it's not right for him to do it. He feels yucky. And therefore, it's easier for him to do tshuva. He comes la'achlanu avinu, he thinks, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have done that. Al chet, he can relate to this, and he's feeling bad. But when it comes to this type of redifas hamamoin, how much from 1 to 100 are you roidif kavod, roidif mamoin, roidif machalim? So we don't even think about it. So it's very hard to do tshuva, because when you are immersed in it, you don't realize, and it's hard to part from it, and we justify it, and we say, what's wrong? It's kosher, it's glad kosher. So I went to a restaurant, and it cost me $600. I have the money, I give my meiser, I enjoyed the meal. Thus, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Those averis, those things that are antithesis to Jewish being, essence, are harder to part ways from, because there's no avera b'maisa. V'chein hu omer. And that's why it says, Yazev Rasha darkoi. The Rasha has to leave his derech. It should say, Yazev Rasha maisav. Yazev Rasha, the Rasha should leave over his rishus, his averus. No. Yazev Rasha darkoi. The derech that you're on a train going the wrong direction. And in that train there are averus, there are mitzvahs, but it's the wrong direction. It's not a Yiddish mindset. V'hainu shemefarish hakra, Yazev Rasha darkei dekoy loy ala meisim b'poil. Not talking about the averus b'poil. Ela alanyani midas shetzrichim loshu b'tshuva aleim. We're talking about the midas that you have to do tshuva on them. Begam lo divrei hagoyin hakadosh Reb Chaim Vital nizkar, and especially according to the words of Reb Chaim Vital that we said before in previous year. Shenyani midas heim hamarkava lahashrois haTorah. Being an edel person. How does that jive with doing what we do and living the way we live with the fat cigar, even if it's at an event that's collecting tzedakah? How does it jive? I'm not knocking. I'm just aware. We have to be aware. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. My car is not a $200 car. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. But this is why we learn. People get defensive and they say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't get defensive. This is why we learn to open up our minds, to move a little bit, to think, maybe I don't need to have the nicest. That's a big deal, by the way. You want to buy a car? Make an order of the list of your nicest choice, second, third, fourth. You can't get a station wagon, I understand. Don't get the nicest, get the second one. What did I accomplish? You accomplished less redifus hamamoin, less redifus hakavoid, a little bit less massaging my gashmius intellectual geschmack feeling of being super cool. And it's hard. It's hard. But this is what Torah wants from us, to be more Jewish. Jewish people can't drive fancy cars. Don't lig in it. Don't lie in. Don't be up to your eyeballs. And this is my focus. You can go on your phone at night. You could be looking for tchotchkes and extra stuff to buy and fun and God bless you. You could afford it. Wonderful. It's a different discussion. The fact that it causes pressure and all of that. That's not now. But you could also go on your phone and you can think about things to make yourself more sweet, more edel, not to need so much externalism. According to this, that who you are before you learn, what kind of a merkava are you, what kind of a chariot are you for hashrois haTorah, that's before you learn Torah. Akati tzarich bir, we still need to understand she'inyan hamidas shehu koi niskav midas, which is such a high thing. Lo nitztavinu akach b'shum tzivim beforish. How come it's not commanded anywhere in the Torah if it's so important?